Welcome once again to Prophetic Cultivation, where prophecies are being cultivated. And today, I'll be looking at the covenant of the 5.5 days. Yes, covenants. What is a covenant? Some people say a covenant is an agreement between two people. Agreement, yes, a very strong force that brings unity together. An agreement is what harmonizes the world. Can two work together except they be agreed? No husband and wife can work together except they agree. No brother and sister can work together except they agree. No neighbor can live together with another neighbor except they be in agreement. In agreement to hold a truce, in agreement to do something. An agreement is a very strong force. In fact, without that agreement, the world was a chaotic mess. The book of Genesis chapter 1 says, in the beginning, the Lord created the heaven and earth. And the earth was what? A chaotic mass. Have you ever imagined the word chaos? You know what chaos means? Whenever there is chaos, you know there is disunity. Whenever there is chaos, you know there is no agreement between the elements. Everything was warring against each other until the word of the Lord stepped in. So, what is a covenant? If an agreement is strong enough on its own, then you can imagine when the covenant element comes in. So what exactly is a covenant? Is it just an agreement between two people? If you say a covenant is an agreement between two people, then you can call that a contract or a treaty. You can call it a vow. You understand? Because I know covenant is much more. It is called a covenant when there is an element of blood. Without the blood element, you cannot say that agreement is a covenant. So what then is a covenant? A covenant is a working relationship, is an agreement to work with somebody, is an agreement to relate with somebody. You have a working knowledge of what both parties are to do, and that working relationship is ratified by blood. Without the blood element, there is no covenant. So every covenant that is agreed upon is ratified by blood. If it is not ratified by blood, then it may be a contract. If it is not ratified by blood, perhaps it may be a treaty. So we're going to be looking at this covenant. I call it the covenant because every covenant is always ratified by blood. Now, there are several types of covenants, but today I'm going to be limited to two types of covenants. One is the monolateral or the unilateral covenant. That unilateral covenant is an agreement between one person, between yourself. You make an agreement with yourself to do something, whether the other party doesn't have to do anything, but you alone agree to do something for the other party. So that kind of agreement is known as, or that sort of kind of covenant is known as a unilateral covenant. Two is the bilateral covenant. Bilateral covenant is a working relationship. I don't want to call it an agreement between two people, so that is going to be like a contract or a treaty. But when you have a working relationship that is ratified by blood between two people, we call it the bilateral covenant. But before you see or you call it a covenant, let's look at the components of a covenant. You look at the word covenant. There are some components or some elements that makes it a covenant. Just agreeing to something doesn't make it a covenant. Just ratifying with blood doesn't make it a covenant. You get what I mean? So there must be some elements in that covenant or that document that makes it a covenant. One, we're going to be looking at the components of a covenant. In every covenant, one, there is the offerer. The offerer is the one who makes the proposal. You on your own, you understand, and somebody comes to you Oh, baby, I would like you to be the mother of my children. I would like you to do this. I would like to do that. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. If you do that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. If you agree to me, you understand? So the person is coming to make an offer. Usually, the one who makes the offer is the stronger person who has what it takes to give you the deal he's asking for or proposing. So the person has to be able to offer what he's requesting of you or proposing you to a deal. So the person making that proposal is usually known as the offerer. The person being proposed to is known as the offeree. So one, there must be the element of the offerer. Two, there must be the offeree. The offeree, like I said, is the one accepting or the one whom this deal is proposed to, the one being spoken to, the one that is being scoped by a man. So if you're a man and you're scoping a girl, the man is like the offerer and the woman is like the offeree. So he's offering something. So one element is the offerer, the second element is the offeree. Then there is the third element, which is known as the deal. He's proposing. What is he proposing? Is it a marriage? So the marriage could be a deal. Come and have children for me could be a deal. Come and be my girlfriend, but we don't want to end at the level of the girlfriend. You understand what I mean? So there must be a deal. So if there's no deal, what are you agreeing to exactly? What is the covenant you're agreeing to? You see what I mean? So it's a working relationship, not just an agreement. If you just agree, yes, I will marry you. It doesn't end there. A covenant has all these elements of agreement and much more, and it has to be ratified by blood. If not, it is not a covenant. So one, we have the offerer, the offeree, and the deal, which is the proposal. If there's no proposal, there is no deal. So the fourth element of a covenant is the acceptance. You have to accept. If you don't accept, there is no deal. Even if there is an offerer, there is an offeree, there is a deal. Without acceptance, there is no deal. And between the proposal and the acceptance, there is a period of probation where you go back and think on. It's not going to be forced on you. You have to sit down and reason. Will this deal be okay for me? What is in it for me? Is it okay? Is it beneficial to me? If it's not beneficial to me, it could be a bad deal and you don't go into it. This person giving the proposal, is he trustworthy? Will he do what he says he will do? So you have to put all those things into consideration before accepting the deal. So that period of between the offer and the acceptance is known as the probatory period. A period where you go and think. Maybe not probation, may not be the right word, but it's a period of reflection where you go and think about it. Is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? Will I be hurt in the process? Will it be beneficial for me? Because it has to be beneficial for you. Whatever is not beneficial for you, you will not go into it except there is something you have seen in it for you. And once there is an acceptance, there is the legalization of the agreement. Yes, you have to sign the deal. You have to legalize the deal. And to sign the deal, you will take a date, just like a marriage appointment, a marriage ceremony. Yes, I'm going to marry you. You both have agreed by word of mouth, but there has to be the legalization of the agreement. Without that legalization, then it is not a covenant, because you have to legalize it where both parties will sign. And the signing, I said, every covenant will be signed by blood. That is the ratification. So one, we have the offeree, the offerer. The offerer, the offeree. We have the deal. We have the acceptance. We have the legalization of the deal, which is the ratification. So every covenant must have a sign, a token. Understand? The token is after the ratification, there must be a token, a sign of the covenant, a mark of the covenant. What is the thing that reminds you about that covenant after ratifying the covenant? So every covenant is signed. Like a contract, you sign the contract, but there has to be something that reminds you that you are into a covenant. We have what we know as the terms of the covenant. We have terms of the covenant. You look at the terms before you agree. We have the sanctions of the covenant, the blessings and the curses of a covenant. You will do this, I will do that. If you do this, these blessings will come to you. But if you don't do this or you do what we said you shouldn't do, then these sanctions, these curses will come to you. So every covenant has terms and conditions. We have sanctions, we have blessings and curses of the covenant, so that we all know what to do. It's like an MOU. You do your part and I do my part. That was why I said it is a working relationship. And after the covenant is signed, we have what we know as the covenant meal. Everybody goes to celebrate the deal. Yeah, we just signed the deal. Yeah, let's have a party. And then they have the covenant meal. That is the last component of the covenant. There is always a covenant meal to close out the covenant. And at the end of the day, there must be a mark of the covenant, a token. For every wedding, the token of the covenant is the ring, to remind you that you are married, you went into a covenant. So we're going to be looking at some covenants in the Bible. Like I said, I'm going to be talking about the covenant of the 5.5 days. How did this 5.5 day come about? From the time of Adam to the time of Christ, there was a space of 5,500 years. The Bible says a day is like 1,000 years, or 1,000 years is like a day in the sight of God, or in the eyes of God. So 1,000 years is covenant, and in every generation, I'm going to be referring generation as a covenant, as 1,000 years in this case. For through every generation, God made a covenant with somebody representing humanity until the time of the new covenant. So let's look at the Adamic covenant. The Adamic covenant was the first 1,000 years. From the time of the Garden of Eden to the time of Jared was 1,000 years, because Adam died in the days of Jared. That was when he completed his 1,000 years. So God created Adam and kept him in the garden. He went into a covenant with Adam known as the Adamic covenant. But most of us, because it is not written as covenant, we say, well, there was no covenant. I tell you, there was a covenant. When you look at the components and the terms and conditions given to Adam, you will know that that was a working relationship. The Bible says that God said Adam should take charge. That was the proposal. He anointed him, take charge, take dominion. He made Adam the king and priest and prophet of the earth, of paradise. Take charge of creation. Take charge of everything. You name them, whatever you name them is what they be. Adam, come and be the governor. And Adam accepted. And he took charge and began to name them. If he did not accept, he wouldn't have named the animals. If he did not accept the proposal, he wouldn't have tilled the garden. He was tending to the garden. And God said, come and do this. He accepted. Although the acceptance was not written verbatim, but through the things he did, we'll know that Adam accepted the covenant. And then God told him as a terms and condition that you can eat everything, but you see that tree of knowledge of good and evil, do not eat it, for the day you eat it, that is the sanction of the covenant, you shall die. And whenever a covenant or a contract is breached, you know you can nullify that covenant. You can break it. It's broken, so that covenant cannot work again. It's not a good working agreement. For it to be a good working agreement, there has to be a provisional thing that will be added to the covenant or the contract, known as the special provision, or known as the addendum. The addendum is a special provision that will be added to that part of the covenant. So after Adam sinned by breaching the covenant, he was sent out of the garden. But before he was sent out of the garden, they were taken to court, to the Supreme Court of heaven, and they were judged. And for every judgment, the sentence was given out to them. But before they were eventually sent out of the garden, there was something that happened. God came in and made a promise. And the promise was the unilateral covenant he made. And unilateral covenants are covenants of grace, promise of grace. God came in and told Adam, the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. What is that seed of the woman? Because it is he, through whom redemption come. Through whom he will come and save you from the shackles of this curse. You understand? It did not say, well, Adam, don't worry, I'm going to promise. Yes, God promised. All those words were not written verbatim, but through the speech, through the tone of the verses, you understand that was where God made the promise to bring the seed of the woman. And we all know who that seed is. He did not say the seeds of the woman. He said the seed of the woman will bruise the head of the serpent. So because Adam broke the promise, Adam broke the covenant, God offered him a promise that no matter what, Adam doesn't have to do anything. Remember, unilateral covenant is a promise of grace. You don't have to do anything for me to do what I said I would do. I said I'm going to bring the seed of the woman to save mankind. You don't have to love me. You don't have to do anything, but I will watch my word to come to pass. And from then, God began to watch his word to come to pass, looking for the seed of the woman through every generation of 1,000 years. So Adam's first 1,000 years passed. Because they sinned, they breached the contract, they breached the covenant by breaking it. Sin came into the world. The fallen angels taught men how to do embassy things, wicked things. And then he called Noah, who was born in the second 1,000 years. Noah was born in the second 1,000 years, and God called him to start a new covenant. From the time of the flood to the time of Reu, when Reu was born, was the second 1,000 years. Okay, so in that second 1,000 years, when they came out of the flood, the Lord entered into a covenant with Noah and his sons and creation. And he proposed the same thing he proposed to Adam. Go replenish the earth. Go and fill the earth. Go and take charge, but only the sanctions of the covenant. Do not kill man, for the day you kill man and you shed blood, you also shall die by the sword. Don't eat anything that has blood in it, for blood is the life of the person. So you don't have to eat blood, you don't have to shed blood. And then there was a token of the covenant, and the token of the covenant was the rainbow. That whenever you see this rainbow, know that I entered into a covenant with you. The token of the covenant with Adam was the rib. There must be a mark, you understand? Whenever you see this mark after entering a covenant with Adam, he made him to fall into a deep sleep, and he took out a rib. Whenever you see a rib, know that I entered into a covenant with you. Whenever you see the rainbow, know that I entered into a covenant with you. There is always a mark that shows us there is a covenant. And you may say, okay, where is the blood that was shed to enter into a covenant with Adam? The Bible says there was a lamb that was shed from the foundation of the earth. That lamb was the blood of the covenant between God and Adam. Then the lamb that Noah offered was the blood of the Noahic covenant. Okay, Noah's sons sinned. Yes, his sons. There was a Nimrod that came, and there was Canaan that was born, who dabbled upon the writings of the watchers and began to practice the sun worship. And as they began to sin, thereby breaching the covenant. Yes, the covenant once again was broken. And then in the third 1,000 years, he called out Abraham, who was born in the third 1,000 years, to enter into the next covenant. And Abraham entered into a covenant which is known as the Abrahamic covenant, which started the Judaism through Abraham. That was how Judaism started, because through his covenant known as the Old Covenant, and the mark of the covenant was the circumcision. So I'm going to be dwelling a little bit more on the Abrahamic covenant. Okay, when Abraham was called out, he was made an offer. What was the offer? I'm going to show you a land flowing with milk and honey. I'm going to give you a land. I'm going to number the stars. Can you see? So shall your seed be. However, Abraham, I will make you have your own physical seed, the seeds that will come out of your body. I'm going to make you a father of many generations, of many generations. And Abraham accepted the covenant. You understand? And he told him this and that. He told him the terms and conditions. And Abraham accepted. And that was why he decided to move to Haran. From Haran, he began to move, from all of the Chaldeans where God called him. He moved to Haran. From Haran, he went into Hebron. Now, I'm going to tell you how God entered into a covenant with Abraham. He asked Abraham to bring certain animals to be sacrificed, to cut them into two parts. And Abraham cut the animals, the bull, the lamb, the goat, and the dove or the pigeon, I don't know what to call it. He cut them in half and spread them apart, and their blood began to flow. This blood here began to flow, and there was a pool of blood. And then they were supposed to do the blood work. He said, Abraham, kill the animals and spread them apart, and then we shall do the blood work. The blood work was to be that should anyone fail to keep the covenant, as we do this blood work, that person will suffer the same fate of the dead animals should they breach the covenant. But God, in his infinite mercy, caused a deep sleep to befall Abraham, knowing that man will never be able to keep to his own parts of the covenant. He has tested the first generation, first 1,000 years, the second 1,000 years, and this third 1,000 years. Will they be any different? Are you sure they will be able to keep the covenant for at least 1,000 years? God knew that Abraham and his children will not be able to keep the covenant. So he caused a deep sleep to befall Abraham, and God himself did the blood work. He went through the animals, stepping on the blood, saying, Abraham, you know what? Whether you like it or not, whether you break the covenant or not, whatever you do, let the consequences of not keeping your own side of the covenant come upon me, because God alone did the blood work. That should Abraham's children fail to keep the covenant, let the sanctions and the curses of the covenant come upon God himself. Is that not grace? And before Abraham woke up, God had done the blood work alone on behalf of himself and on behalf of mankind. And then Abraham, circumcise yourself. That should be the mark of the covenant. So I'm going to be jumping quickly to the next 1,000 years, which is the third 1,000, the fourth 1,000 years. From the time of rule to the time of Canaan, we have another 1,000 years, which Moses was born in that fourth 1,000 years. And when Moses was born, remember, the children of Israel were in the land of Egypt for 400 and something years, 430 years before they came out. So in the midst of that 430 years, Moses was born, and the Lord told them, come, that you may serve me, because he made an agreement, a covenant with Abraham, which he must fulfill. And for them to be able to inherit and stay in the land, they have to obey and continue to worship God. And the Lord told them when he delivered them from the house of bondage, from the land of Egypt, he told them, as you are going to this land, you will worship no other God except me. You will do like this, you will do like this. And as the Lord was speaking, they were terrified. They said, yes, everything you have said we will do. Please, Moses, go and talk to him that we have agreed. We don't want to die, because of his voice that thundereth. And so Moses went up to the mountain to get the written covenant. And before the written covenant, which had the terms and conditions, could come, they had already broken the covenant they had accepted. And God said, look at them, Moses, go away, let me wipe them out today. And Moses intervened. The intervention which caused the Lord to add an addendum to the covenant. So the Ark of the Covenant was what carried the covenant of God. So the 10 Commandments is the covenant. You shall not worship any other God before me. You shall not kill. You shall honor your mother and your father. Everything, you shall not covet your neighbor's word. Everything, 10 in all the agreements, and they all accepted. But before they knew it, they had worshipped a golden calf, thereby breaking the covenant. Because the covenant was broken, the Lord set up a situation of an atonement, where he now chose the Levites, starting the Levitical order. He chose the Levites, replacing them with the firstborns of Israel, to institute the Levitical order, so that they can be making animal sacrifices until the new covenant stepped in. So that is the fourth covenant. The fifth covenant was in the next 1,000 years. And in that next 1,000 years, a David was born. And he entered into the Davidic covenant, telling him that there will always be someone from the root of David to sit on the throne. And which Christ fulfilled after 500 years, because there was 500 years between David and Christ, enacting the new covenant. Now, what is the new covenant? Was any covenant broken at any time? There was no covenant broken. All the covenants God had with man in their several generations were everlasting covenants. Look at yourself. You say you are married. Do you know that marriage is a covenant? So many of us break the marriage covenants because we do not understand what a covenant is. A covenant is a working relationship. And when Christ came, he came to restore us back to God, so that we will have that relationship. And he offered himself as the sacrifice. He was the sacrifice. He was the sacrifice. And the token of the new covenant was the Spirit of the living God that was released upon the church. That is the sign. He said, these signs shall follow you. That whenever you see, you remember the covenant you are in. That you are in a working relationship. Are you in the new covenant? The covenant is everlasting. What did he say? He said, love your neighbor as yourself. Do not sin. There are terms and conditions. If you don't believe, all you need to do, because this was a fulfillment of the unilateral covenant he made to Adam, that he was going to bring grace. And grace is him accomplishing all things on our behalf. Him keeping what we couldn't keep. But if only you believe that he did die, and he did resurrect and ascended, you shall be saved. What is keeping you from this belief? So that you can be restored back to your Maker and have that working relationship, because you have agreed to enter into that new covenant. I am in the new covenant. Set yourself. If you are not yet in the covenant, please align yourself into the new covenant, because there are blessings and curses of the covenant. The blessing is when you keep it, when you do the things you're supposed to do. you inherit heaven. That was the promise that was made to us. We are going to a place far better than what we are living in right now. And then, if you don't believe at the end of the day, you might be doomed. So, do you want to wait until you see the doom? Why not enter into the new covenant with Yahusha, our Maker, with God Yahuwah, our Maker? God bless you. Bye. Once again, it's prophetic cultivation.